Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this latest edition of Read Team Fast, where I take old stories I've narrated and update them to modern audio standards. This particular story is called Billy Bob's Space Trucker, and is part of a series. If you're new to this series, there is a playlist listed down below in the description. And as always, I hope that you enjoy. Chapter 28. The USS John McClane jumped into reality above the galactic government world, Tevius, just as the UHG Siberian Fury jumped in next to them. Or rather, not the UHG Siberian Fury. That's crazy talk. The Russian name on the bow of the ship had hastily been crossed out in paint, and beneath it was written, the USS American's Warship of Angry. Tevius was a Grezland planet, home to shipyards, resource mines, and even a training ground for their elite soldiers. Civilian population was as minimal as it could be for a planet like this. High Command didn't have any large ships to spare, but 2 Special Force cruisers were nearby. And after the resounding defeat of the Grezland's main battle fleet, this was a time to strike. While they scrambled to rebuild and reposition. Each ship launched several assault craft towards targets on the planet's surface as the commanders addressed them over the speakers. For the American Archangels, the speech was simple. I ain't letting no red commie some bitches beat us. We take our targets faster. We inflict more damage. If you fail me today, there won't be a pizza party when you return. So get out there and kill more goddamn fish than the Ruskies. The Spetsnaz, in their own craft, listened to their own leader over their own speakers. They were trying to remember to use English for the sake of keeping up appearances. The American war-making steel is inferior. I will not accept you've lost in score. If not being successful, no eating of food but borscht and raw turnip. For a whole week. With both Special Forces groups being properly motivated as their craft were buffeted by entry into the planet's atmosphere, the cruisers began to open fire on the Grezland ships around the orbital stations. The gunners on both ships had an open scoreboard going between them to make sure they knew who was doing better than the other. Both ship commanders had wanted to time their Special Force teams with the stopwatches, but High Command wouldn't let them. Instead, they had to settle for examining after-action reports written by observers embedded in the teams. But one way or another, they were both going to get scores based on something. Vikings, this is Viking Actual. Don't let the pizza party cloud your judgment. I want this operation clean. We'll crush these robofish and beat the Ruskies all on our own time by doing this right. Clear your objectives. Don't get reckless. Can't enjoy pizza if you're dead. Viking Actual out. The assault craft landed with a thud, the doors opening wide as the power-suited humans poured out. There in the center of his squad was Viking Actual, standing several inches over the heads of those around them. He wasn't satisfied with the normal rifles that were standard for Archangels, and instead had custom Browning 50 cal made for his use. It was fed from a belt leading to a case on his back, and while he had to fire it from the hip, that was the nice thing about the 50 cal bullets. Getting close to the target counted. Viking squad fanned out around the captain, while Berserker squad deployed to their left, and the Cossack deployed to their right. Their call sign had been chosen years ago, and they'd be damned if they changed it because they had Spetsnaz support now. The 3 squads had been assigned to attack the Grezland training base. 15 Archangels against a few hundred robofish. Well, 15 Archangels and 1 combat surgeon in a white power suit, who was supposed to also keep score. Viking was approaching through the front gate, the 4 around their captain shooting up the guard station up front. The fish only had energy pistol sidearms, which didn't even scratch the paint on the Archangel's power armor. They took up positions on either side of the shot-up guard stations, letting their captain take the lead. To the left and right were squat barracks, built out of some cheap prefab-style material. Didn't matter what military you were in, barracks were made by the lowest bidder. 3 of the Grezlands boast 3 of the nearest door, energy rifles in hand. That was when Viking Actual opened fire. The Browning spat out those heavy rounds with that distinct dun-dun-dun-dun over and over again. Splattering those 3, he simply kept walking along the side of the barracks. The round slammed into the walls of the barracks. And from the sound of it, the fish inside weren't having a good day. The rest of his squad covered him, picking off the Gremlins who were trying to run out of the barracks to his other side with quick bursts. When more began to emerge, Viking Actual finally turned, never letting up on the trigger as the heavy thud continued to fill the air. Dun 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 dun. The few robofish who were outside when they got hit with the rounds went flying against the nearest wall. Hitting a human with a 50 cal round was very bad for the human. Hitting a Xeno that was built for a lighter gravity, devastating. There was a slightly smarter group of robofish who appeared on the top of the roof of the shredded barracks with a Mattis Labber. The rest of Viking squad began to pepper them with fire, but they got a shot off and ducked down behind the edge of the building for cover. There was a shower of dirt and smoke from the explosion. But before the robofish could celebrate, a 50 cal round slammed one clear off the roof. The smoke cleared as Viking Actual returned fire, standing next to a crater that could have been him if the robofish had been a better shot. The two barracks were quiet at this point, but the buildings across the parade ground looked to be getting ready. "Squad, take positions in the buildings," the large human said as he let the Browning cool off, the red barrel steaming as he stepped forward into the parade grounds. The other Archangels moved into the barracks, stepping over the exosuits that had been tossed around by the indiscriminate 50 cal fire. While they repositioned, however, the captain saw a much bigger exosuit approaching from the far side. It had to be around 10 feet tall, sporting some gauntlets and much sturdier-looking armor than the main Gremlin soldiers running around. Raising the Browning, Viking Actual began to fire once more, the heavy rounds zipping over the parade ground. But this exosuit wasn't going down so easy. Those gauntlets hummed as a shield of energy stopped the incoming rounds. The captain braced for return fire, but the exosuit apparently wasn't armed. So instead the human inside the suit grinned and set the 50 cal down, disconnecting the feed from his pack. Then hands-free, he motioned for the thing closer with a wave. "Squads, focus fire on the matter slammers, but don't touch the big guy coming towards us. I'm itching for a real fight." He began to jog forwards as it did the same. They met in the middle of the parade grounds, human on one side, Gremlins on the other, exchanging fire while the two titans squared off. It leaned in with a mighty haymaker that Viking was easily able to duck under, delivering 2 body blows as he slipped by. It swung back around, lashing out with a leg faster than he expected, and caught him in the chest, knocking the human in the power suit onto his back. When he raised both fists to bring them crashing down, however, the human was faster, rolling out of the way and jumping up to punch the machine in its sensor-filled head. The fight went on, trading blows, ducking and diving. The human wasn't as strong as the exosuit or as durable, but he was faster. He could bounce from foot to foot, ducking, bobbing and weaving, only to dash in and slam those powerful fists into the machine's body time and again. This was while fire rained around the two, an energy bolt slamming into him here or there, while the Gremlin took his own share of fire, but they ignored the ranged combatants for now. Finally, the human saw his opening, ducking another wild punch to slip around the machine, driving his foot into the back of its knee. As the machine stumbled forward onto one knee, it reached out to try and stabilize, which was when Viking Actual grabbed it by the arm just under the shoulder and pressed his foot into the machine's back. He grunted and growled, and then, with a crackling snap, of metal giving way, yanked the arm free, which he immediately began to use as a club to smash the rest of the machine with. It staggered and fell completely, raising a hand as the body cracked and dented, water escaping as he finally started beating the life support pod in the middle. "All right, time to see what you fish look like," he muttered. Tossing the arm aside, he gripped the life support pod at the center of the machine, tearing the door open. Inside, he finally saw a Gremlin in the flesh. "Jesus fucking Christ, you're ugly," he said simply, staring down at a face that looked like it belonged on one of those deep-sea anglerfish, all teeth with large white eyes. The body had twisted, deformed H.R. Geiger design, and around its hips were only what he could assume was several exposed testicles. "Well, ugly, let me introduce myself," the human said as he raised his giant foot to end this fight once and for all. "You're about to be stomped by Captain Ted Rex, big brother of Billy Bob, Space Trucker." Billy Bob was lying on his stomach as the space goblin doctor rubbed some more biogel along his back. He had already drunk a nice big glass of the stuff, as well, while the agent and Emily watched on. "What is this stuff?" the agent was asking as she watched and clawed chunks of flesh on his back start to seal up with incredible speed. "Biogel," Billy Bob said, and then saw Emily place one of her bloody claws in her mouth before it came out free. "Hey, are you eating my flesh?" She jerked in surprise when he yelled that out, and as the agent looked at her as well, trying to hide her hands behind her back. "What? No." "Yes, you were. You don't taste bad." "God damn it, Emily, don't go getting a taste for my flesh." "I was just cleaning my talons. There are pieces of you still stuck in them." She looked as guilty as a cat with feathers stuck in its mouth. Although she had feathers, he'd need to start updating his sayings. "That isn't helping," he growled out for a moment as she stepped out of his field of vision. "Fine, I'll go wash them off." He was fairly sure that she'd just licked them off. He'd just decided to give this thing a serious go with her, and she was literally eating him alive. "Okay, back to the discussion, however," the agent persisted. "What's biogel?" The doctor, who Billy Bob thought was named Ukura, but hoped he'd misheard, spoke up. "It's a compound of nutrient-rich gel and very small machines designed to assist healing. In most species, they need the gel for the machine to survive long enough to be effective without taking too much from the host's body, since that would defeat the purpose. But you humans are so damn dense and have so much biological material to use, the machines work much faster, and for longer than I've ever seen." "What? Like nanobots? Those exist?" Yes. Why wouldn't they?" the space goblin asked as he watched Billy Bob's back heal. "Well, we sort of stopped all most of the AI research after all the suicides." "Your scientists were committing suicide?" he asked, looking back at her. No, the AI were committing suicide. We couldn't create an intelligent machine that was happy with existing because we'd made it for this or that. We couldn't figure out how to keep them from destroying their own hardware or begging us to do it for them. It was miserable. So, we stopped the research." "Wait," they heard Emily walking back. "You created intelligent machines, like ones that could learn and think, yeah? Do you have any idea how insanely dangerous that is? We've always theorized machine intelligences would become hostile to organic life and try to wipe it out," she said as the space goblin nodded. "I must agree with her, but that's banned research across all space for quite some time. The possible threat was too great. I suppose it's just good that your experiments failed. But why would you even risk such a thing?" "Well," the agent paused, trying to think it over, but Billy Bob spoke up. "We do shit like that all the time. Some people thought that they'd take over the world or kill us all. But we wouldn't know until we tried it. Same as detonating our first atomic bomb. A bunch of scientists thought that it might ignite our atmosphere and kill the planet. Still did it. Not to mention that we were making small black holes and studying them before we even had a colony off our planet. We might have totally killed off our whole species then and there." The agent laughed and nodded at, "Yeah, that's a good point. It's classified information. Figured. Something similar happened when we first had the skip drives in testing. Some of the engineers thought by activating it we might unravel the thread between space and time and various realities and stuff, and just sort of stop the whole universe from existing all at once." The two Xenos were staring at the humans with clear looks of horror on their faces. But Billy Bob was grinning. "So what happened?" "They told the general in charge of the project and told them they had no choice. Either they might end everything all at once, or they very certainly would suffer having him shove his foot so far up their asses they developed brain cancer on the spot. So they tested it, and we all still exist." The space goblin gasped out, "How can you possibly endanger everything like that? If your greatest minds told you there was a chance for that sort of outcome, why even tempt fate?" Billy Bob and the human spy just stared at him. "Because if we didn't, we'd never know," Billy Bob simply answered. "Yeah," the agent confirmed. The space goblin looked at Emily. "And you want to partake in a union with this one, Trudy?" She shrugged her arms at that. "There's just, something about him." "Hopefully that's not the way I taste," he shot back. "How many times do I need to say that I'm sorry?" "A lot. Especially since you keep trying to kill me." "I swear, I don't." "Put your gloves on already." Emily picked up her gloves from earlier as she eyed the human agent. "I'm sorry about that, display earlier, but don't forget, he chose me. Don't get any ideas." The human arched a brow at that, while Billy Bob rolled his eyes. Okay, not my type. All yours. I had no intention of stealing your man," the woman said as Emily nodded. "Good. and make sure everyone knows that he's spoken for. Billy Bob wasn't sure if he found her possessive nature to be flattering or worrisome. If he started seeing her standing over him with a knife and fork, or started seasoning him with herbs and spices, then he'd worry. But until then, he might as well appreciate the fact that someone cared that much about him. Aside from his family, that is. Even if they had strange ways of showing it. Like his mom threatening to hug him with her arm of death should he ever step out of line when he was younger. Or, crap, she threatened him with that whenever they had any family gathering. Right, well, how much of this biogel do you have on the station? The agent asked the doctor, which brought Billy Bob back into reality. 10 gallons. It's expensive stuff, and we've normally need just a little. Although I suppose we're now down to 9¼ gallons, he said as he looked over Billy Bob's wounds, which seemed to have healed up by now, to a faint scar. In fact, Billy Bob felt better than he had before this all happened, since he'd still been recovering from the injuries he got at the museum. We're going to want all of it to take back to the war effort. This will change things greatly. What? But we need some for wounded people who come in here. Oh, there's Miss CIA spook. We don't need all of it. Doc, could you guys be alright with keeping with just 4 gallons? Unless you have a major shitstorm hit. Well, it'll be okay until you get resupplied, right? The space goblin set his hand on his chin. 4 gallons should be fine. But what will you pay us? The agent looked at him. You're going to be making a very generous donation to the human war effort. Specifically, the American war effort. And we don't forget our friends. But there's a chance you won't win. Have you looked at the latest news reports? We annihilated the main Gresland battle fleet in a single battle. FTL lanes into our space are down. The Krustakan invasion of Bastion has been stunted. Despite being surrounded by enemies, the Libertonian homeworld survives, she laughed. Do you want to bet against us at this point? The space goblin looked from the agent to Billy Bob and then back to Emily before shrugging. I suppose it would be wise to stay on your good side for now. It would certainly benefit my people should the council finally lose power. The agent nodded, and Billy Bob finally started to get up, frowning as he looked at his shredded jacket. He sighed and pulled it on anyway. What's the plan? We've been contacted by an unlikely ally, but so far it seems legit, the agent mentioned. I need to secure this biogel. Just head to your Atlas ship and some new friends will be joining us. He nodded at that and started packing up his things with Emily while the agent and the space goblin left. Once they were gone, he turned to Emily. Okay, ground rules in our relationship. No biting or scratching chunks of my flesh off my damn body. And no more trying to kill or maim me. And keep your gloves on unless we've discussed it and plan on doing something super carefully. Oh, come on. You have no idea how much it hurts to have chunks of your back ripped free of your body. How do you even touch each other without trouble? Well, I guess when I feel feathers, I know how light to touch, but, you don't have any. All right, but I have some of my own rules. All right, mine are mostly about not dying, but that's fair. What you got? No more farting. What? You can't be serious. I can't not fart. I have to fart. But it smells so bad, and if I try to hold it in, I'll explode. You really want to kill me? What? You won't explode. There was a pause. Will you? I don't want to find out. That's for damn sure. Humans fart. You have to get used to it. But that noise is so awkward, and really just how it stinks. Thank you, Emily. Thank you for pointing out something our species has tried to deal with for thousands of years. Your insight into my people astounds me. You obviously haven't tried to deal with it all that hard. It's not like there's a solution. We have to do it. Don't you guys fart? Never. Well, it's not like that. Remember that time when you asked what that smell was when we were listening to that monarch sing? Queen. Yeah, that sort of lilac and rose. I'm not sure what those smell like, but I think that's what you said. That was my version of what you'd call a fart. He stopped and stared at her. You guys fart flower smells. How the fuck is that fair? And how come it didn't make a sound? She shrugged. We have small release vents under our armpits. So, we get sweaty and stinky and fart bad things. You guys fart flower smells and don't get BO because you farted out through your armpits. He shook his head for a moment. Evolution isn't fair sometimes. Hey, your species is by far the densest and strongest intelligent species the galaxy has ever seen, so there is that. He shrugged and nodded, then finished packing up his stuff. There was a small crate on the Atlas that he'd bought the day before during one of Emily's sleep cycles, a special gift he wanted to give her when the time was right. He hoped the spies hadn't left it out in the open, but other than that, he was set. They walked back out to the Rosie, and as he opened the hatch, he found another human standing in there wearing a dark suit. All around him were space gerbils. Space gerbils in suits, but they had such adorable fat bellies. "Oh, hello there, Colonel Billy Bob," the agent said, and Billy Bob realized that it must be the guy who'd talked him through the Emily situation. "Let me introduce you to— Holy shit, it's a Monopoly guy, Space Hamster," he exclaimed as he saw the gerbil with a top hat, with a monocle and a black and white vest. He ran up to it and reached down to squeeze his fat fuzzy face. "You're so cute." The grown man picked the space hamster up in his arms and took a deep breath. "Well, what are you doing? Put me down." The hamster had been interrupted by Billy Bob blowing a raspberry on its exposed belly, making a fart noise echo through the ship's cargo bay. Oh, I say, that was delightful. Do it again." Billy Bob quickly obliged, as the space hamster laughed and squealed, his arms and legs flailing around. Then Billy Bob tossed him up in the air, which made the creature gasp and flail with some worry before Billy Bob caught him again. That was terrifying. I almost soiled myself. Do it again." "I want to fly again." Billy Bob tossed the space hamster into the air. He was laughing once more, while the whole horde of hamsters clustered around Billy Bob, demanding to go next. Emily and the human stood off to the side, watching. Do you think he realizes he's playing toss with one of the most powerful counselors there are?" the human asked. "Do you think he would care if he knew?" Emily simply replied with a wistful smile on her face. In the background, Billy Bob was tossing space hamsters into the air and catching them, every so often giving a giant raspberry as the fart sound echoed out with a squealing and laughter. And so ends another chapter in the adventures of Billy Bob Space Trucker. I would like to thank our T5 members and patrons, Casper Arnholtz, Jon Creighton, Vidmori, 050, Dragzoon W.R.E, and Elijah Silvercross. Thank you very much.